You will learn how to determine scale increments for a bar graph by looking at data. Let's review. Bar graphs visually represent the information that has been collected to answer a question. There are many parts to a bar graph. A vertical and horizontal line, also known as the X and Y axes. A title that gives a quick overview of the information shown. A scale that can count up in a number of different increments. Labels to help you understand the graph. And finally, bars that represent the data collected. Let's look at the scale of the graph. You've seen graphs that count up in increments of 1. When we talk about increments, we mean the increase from one tick mark to the next. When a graph has a scale like this, it increases in increments of 1. A common misunderstanding is that mathematicians think the scale only can count in increments of 1. That's not true. A scale can count in any increment. Most often, however, it counts by benchmark numbers, like 2, 5, 10, 25, 50, or 100. This scale counts in increments of 2. Here's a scale that counts up by 5. I want to make a bar graph to show what flowers I planted. In my garden, I planted 8 daisies and 20 tulips. I want to determine what increments I should use for my scale. If I had a scale with increments of 1, 21 numbers would be on my scale. Too many. Could use increments of 1 for the scale, however, the numbers would be too crowded and too small. That wouldn't work. So I will need to determine a better increment. Let's look back at those benchmark numbers. If I had an increment of 2, the scale would have 11 numbers on it. That looks better, but let's check with the next benchmark number. If my graph counted in increments of 5, the scale would have 5 numbers on it. Now I'm not sure there are enough numbers there. Let's think back about our data and how it would look on these graphs if we counted in increments of 2 or increments of 5. On each graph, I can show clearly that 20 tulips are in my garden. When my scale increases by 2, it is clear to show that 8 daisies are in my garden. However, it's not clear on a graph that counts up by 5 because you don't say 8 when you count by 5. I should make my scale count in increments of 2. When I use increments of 2, each number is displayed clearly. Let's think back to Mrs. Davidson's situation. Mrs. Davidson tells us that she ordered 40 chocolate cupcakes, 60 vanilla cupcakes, and 25 lemon cupcakes. If our scale counted in increments of 1, that would be 61 numbers on our scale. That would not work. It's important to keep in mind that while a scale on a graph can have any amount of numbers, the easiest graphs to read have scales with 5 to 12 numbers. Too many numbers on a scale will crowd the axes, and too few will not display your information clearly. If the scale counted in increments of 2, it would still be too crowded. This scale only goes up to 42. We would need it to go up to 60.
Thank you. I will. Maybe 2.
If the scale counted in increments of 5, there would be 13 numbers on the scale. This is looking better. Let's keep going on with our benchmark numbers. If the scale counted in increments of 10, 7 numbers would be on our scale. So far, that scale looks the best. There are 7 numbers here on my scale. If a clear scale has anywhere from 5 to 12 numbers, so far, counting in increments of 10 seems the best. Now let's take into consideration all the numbers from our data. It would be easy to represent the 40 chocolate cupcakes and the 60 vanilla cupcakes, because you say 40 and 60 when you count by 10. But what about the 25 lemon cupcakes? While you don't say 25 when you count by tens, 25 would be clear to represent on this graph, because 25 is right in between 20 and 30. It looks like a scale counted in increments of 10 would be the best way to clearly show our information. Mrs. Davidson now has a bar graph that shows the cupcakes that were ordered for the party. In this lesson, you learned how to determine scale increments for a bar graph by looking at data.